Hey, what's up? This is Airwalk here. The announcement of a brand new Arc'teryx product line got me pretty excited, and when System A announced a couple of weeks ago, it promised both a whole bunch of brand new designs and a more fashion-focused appeal too. Pictures of the new items circulated pre-release, and on drop day, some of the more popular items sold out pretty much immediately. One of those being the Dume jacket, which you probably have already seen behind me, which I was super excited about and had to pick up one of my own. Not only is there some interesting stuff to talk about with this jacket, which at £400 retail or approximately $450 is one of the more expensive items, but the collection as a whole ignited some Arc'teryx interest and caused a little bit of spicy drama and controversy. I'm coming at this very much as an Arc'teryx fan. I've been buying the brand for 3 or 4 years. I've probably got more Arc'teryx than any other brand, and that's not even to mention the Valence stuff. As someone who cares about performance and aesthetics in tandem, I do feel like this collection is designed to appeal to people like me, as well as potentially newer Arc'teryx fans as well. But we'll talk about why this collection has got people a little bit riled up, and then we'll have a look at a jacket which might not be perfect, but is certainly very cool looking and has a lot of things to like. System A is a collection of performance apparel for the next generation, says the official website, and boy do long-term fans hate the next generation. The brand growing more popular from a fashion and a streetwear perspective has definitely irked people who have been buying it exclusively for on-mountain use. After all, the Beta LT is very much designed for serious mountaineering and not taking a trip to Tesco for snacks when it's raining a bit. But Arc'teryx has always stayed true to its roots. It's never actively marketed any of its products to streetwear fans, nor has it really created anything specifically for them, unless we're talking about some of those limited edition collaborations with retailers like Beams over in Japan. Until now, of course, because we've got fewer features designed for on-trail use, we've got more directional aesthetics, we've got changed logo placements, including some very oversized logos on the t-shirts. All apparent evidence to long-term fans of Arc'teryx caving to the hype beasts who will run the brand into the ground before moving on to the next trend and leaving it as just another lifestyle brand propped up by logo print hoodies. A grim fate indeed, and this new collection being teased first by Canadian rapper Killy rather than being in the hands of mountaineers first is only more fuel for the old head fire. But does System A represent Arc'teryx turning their back on the values that made them so popular in the first place? Well, let's take a closer look at the Dume over here and find out for ourselves. And here it is. I went for the chalk colorway, which in my opinion is a fantastic color. These lighter colors are far more uncommon in performance outerwear, which really appeal to me, and that two-tone finish really takes that to another level, with the two shades working super nicely together. It has a very slightly desaturated green tint to it, which doesn't come across much in product shots, but it only adds to the unique appeal of this color. Using a multi-tone finish gives it some resemblance to those exclusive Beams collabs that we talked about before, as well as some older popular models like the Beta SL and the highly regarded Theta AR. I'm sure this is a deliberate attempt to satisfy the demand for those kinds of multi-tone jackets and be a bit of a subtle nod to those fashion fans. Hey, if you like that old stuff that's pretty exclusive and you can't get it anymore, maybe you should give this a go. Even forgetting the colour, the aesthetics of this jacket are something of a departure from the Arc'teryx formula. It's a brand that's really prided itself on an incredibly consistent design language, but there are quite a few differences here. A slightly shorter, boxier fit overall and a higher, more structured collar change the fit of this into something that is more retro-inspired, or a city aesthetic as Arc'teryx call it. Quite different to the ultra-modern sleekness of many of their Gore-Tex shells. Have a look at the back as well between the shoulder blades, because the main logo has been moved to back here. Your average mountaineer would have that covered by a backpack, but Arc'teryx clearly anticipate this jacket is going to be worn alone more often. The front does have an Arc'teryx text logo down by the hip though. It's quite unusual placement for a jacket. I also think it's no coincidence that in a world where so many brands now are racing to homogenize their logos to make them easier to read and easier to reproduce, that what we're seeing on this fashion-focused city jacket is an easy-to-read text logo. However, unlike some items from System A, I do not think this is a heavily branded jacket, and in fact you could certainly make the argument that this is less branded than many of their other Gore-Tex shells. I could see the panel being a bit unflattering, maybe if you're a bit wider than me and it kind of drawing attention to the stomach area, but I think overall it's a really good looking jacket. I think it suits me quite well as well, but it is undoubtedly an aesthetic departure, and that alone is probably going to rub some people up the wrong way. But as with anything Arc'teryx, and in fact most things on the channel, performance is of course super important as well, so let's take a proper look at what's going on under the hood. First off, 3-layer Gore-Tex construction is just as good as you'd expect from the full-featured performance jackets like the Beta LT. However, there is one key difference here: C-knit. This is a Gore-developed backing fabric designed to both increase breathability and next-to-skin comfort. Considering Arc'teryx's use case for the Dume as both high and low intensity, including a lot of city wear, it definitely makes sense to include a bit of backing technology like this. This was one of the things I was pretty keen to try out. How much of a difference does it actually make versus regular Gore-Tex? I do have to be honest, this feels like an incremental improvement rather than a revolution. If you're familiar with the feeling of Gore-Tex fabric already, you'll have a pretty good idea of how this feels. Although this is definitely more supple and it feels a little bit more comfortable to wear as well. That's something you'll notice putting your hands in the pockets as well. But another big factor here is for breathability. Gore claim 15% better breathability with C-knit versus the regular stuff. Now that is pretty much impossible for me to quantify, but what I can say is I've exclusively worn this in fairly warm weather. It is still summer here in the UK just about, and I've certainly not noticed any problems with breathability or in fact this being any less breathable than any other of the Gore-Tex jackets. I do find this fairly pleasant and comfortable to wear. One key thing here though is that this model does lack the pit zips that you'll find on some other models like the Beta LT. This means for high output activity, if you are actually doing something fairly intensive, a model like that which allows you to dump more heat more quickly may well be more appropriate than this one, where you don't quite have that same level of flexibility. However, of course, they will have had that material upgrade in mind for the more casual city wear rather than doing any of that stuff, and that is exactly the point where you're going to see the benefit from this material. I also think it's more likely that people are going to wear this jacket with just a t-shirt or something underneath rather than with loads and loads of layers and, you know, fully making use of the performance of a big layering system. Now, no one is going to officially recommend that you wear a Gore-Tex jacket with just a t-shirt underneath, because body oil, sweat, things like that are going to shorten the lifespan of that material, but the reality is people probably are going to do it, and if you do, you're better off wearing C-knit than a regular 3-layer Gore-Tex. My understanding is that C-knit is more expensive as a backing fabric and a little bit less durable as well, so you'll definitely get the most benefit and see the least downside from this with more casual city wear than using it to scale a mountain. You might notice the panels actually use a different material. In some Arc'teryx jacket models like the Beta SL Hybrid, you'll see a mix of 3-layer Gore-Tex and 2-layer Paclite. Not the case here, this is the 3-layer full-fat Gore-Tex throughout. However, the panels have a slightly lower fabric weight and much lower denier than the other stuff. This is only 13 denier, which is incredibly low. Lower durability, yes, because the kind of fibers are much thinner, but lower weight and better breathability. I think that's something that will work with the intended use of this jacket very well and is more appropriate than keeping the same fabric weight throughout. The stowable hood is an interesting one. From a fashion perspective, it gives a bit of a cleaner look and allows that extended collar a real chance to shine. You'll probably want to keep it tucked in unless it's needed. It also suits situations when it's cooler and windy but not actually raining. Saves you having a hood flapping around at the back, and Gore-Tex does do a pretty good job of preventing wind chill. This aids its abilities as a do-it-all jacket, and it acknowledges the fact that people will probably wear this when they want to rather than just when they need to, i.e. when it's pouring with rain. The hood itself isn't cut for a jacket, so it's more form-fitting than on the Beta LT. It also doesn't have the same structured peak to it, that's presumably so that it is more packable, easier to roll up. It also doesn't have the same 3-point articulation system, it just has a single toggle to adjust it at the back. It does cinch down fine, but it doesn't look as good and it's not quite as articulated or protective as some of those other jacket models. This is definitely a weakness for a Gore-Tex jacket where the material is really going to shine in wet weather, but the hood doesn't quite live up to that same level of performance that we would expect from some of the other Arc'teryx jackets. I personally would have been tempted to have that aesthetic trade-off of not having having this hood packable, but instead having it a little bit bigger, maybe not quite as big as the LT, but still keeping that peaked hood and the 3-point articulation as well. I still think that would look good, but it would give it a bit of extra functionality, not just for hardcore wear, but casual city stuff as well, where sometimes it is going to be raining quite a lot. This is plenty good enough for a water-resistant hood, don't get me wrong, and you'll certainly find it useful, but if I knew I was going to be outside and it was going to be pouring with rain all day, I would maybe pick a different jacket over this one. Toggles at the hem are common in these jackets, and the version here I think is particularly good. Pull it to tighten and press these little toggles mounted to the jacket itself to loosen it again. It's easier and it's quicker one-handed than a conventional toggle, and it just works. I think this is one of my favourite implementations of this. Carrying capacity is okay on the jacket. You've got pretty big hand pockets here. They're positioned in quite a comfortable fashion. They don't need to navigate any kind of climbing harnesses or anything like that. And you've also got an internal device pocket, and that's pretty much it. Unless, of course, we're counting the military-inspired left arm pocket. To be fair, this is actually quite sizable, but because of its placement, you're not going to want to put anything too heavy or bulky in there. The more interesting thing on the arms, though, is these Velcro patches. These do come with covers attached if you don't want to make use of them, which is good, but it allows the user to personalize their jacket a bit. This kind of thing, while we see it on Leaf and other military brands, is extremely unusual for a mainline product. While it is an aesthetic-only feature, I do think it's an interesting one in that this kind of customization is not really normalized outside of techwear and military fashion. I bought this cool Snowden patch from my Wales trip, so I will definitely be making use of this. I'll attach some Velcro to it and add it on there, maybe with a Aoku one or something on the opposite side, so I can flex my combined city and mountain credentials in one go. The exact size and shape seems like a strange decision though. I get that they wouldn't want to put massive military-sized ones on here. That would change the aesthetic a bit. It would make it fall more in line with the Leaf gear, which they probably wouldn't want to do. But it's a bit of an odd middle ground where many patches will be too wide to fit this neatly. But at the same time, this is significantly bigger than those little thin strips that you would find that attach to molly webbing, or indeed the sized ones that you'll find that attach to acronym collars. Maybe in time we'll see some official Arc'teryx patches which are suitably sized. I would definitely appreciate the ability to kind of officially customize this jacket in a way where things will actually fit properly and look nice and cohesive. All in all with this jacket, you've probably got the sense that there aren't fewer features or less performance, but those things are directed in a slightly different direction to many of the other Arc'teryx shells. As a result, yes, of course, this is going to be less appropriate for intensive on-mountain use than the Alpha or Beta series, even the Zeta one. I also think this is a fairly expensive jacket. This comes in £50 more expensive than the now discontinued Zeta LT, which used the same 3-layer Gore-Tex with C-knit backing. You can make a case for the additions like the stowable hood, the redesigned hem adjustment, the Velcro patches on the arms as well, all kind of explaining part of that cost. But really, to me, you are paying a premium for the fact that this is a unique looking jacket relative to the rest of the lineup. Personally, I care just as much about interesting looks as I do interesting performance, but I have to accept that in many cases that does mean that you have to pay a little bit of a premium. And I can definitely see that not sitting well with a lot of people who would rather save themselves a bit of cash and opt for one of the other Gore-Tex jacket models instead. Perhaps longer-term Arc'teryx fans are not going to see the value in the unique features and changes for the Dume compared to the existing stuff. Many of the changes we see here though make it more appropriate for day-to-day use without making any material or construction quality sacrifices. You of course, yeah, see the same material being used, the same taped seams, the same nice smooth waterproof zips on the pockets. Honestly, I think this is an acknowledgement that there are lots of Arc'teryx fans out there who appreciate the brand and like the performance aspect, but aren't going to use their gear for mountaineering. Or people like me who do lots of fun outdoor stuff, but also want nice high performance gear for times when they're not doing that, and value a slightly different, interesting look. I have to admit, I like the look of Gore-Tex jackets, which is why often I will wear the J1A, the Beta LT, the Core GTX, when I don't necessarily need to, and certainly from that perspective, the Dume fits in extremely well, and I definitely see the value. I see the Dume in a similar way to something like the Nike Lab ACG Deploy jacket. The two kind of sit in a similar kind of space to me. I definitely think System A has potential, and I'd like to see it built on and see more models in future seasons. I think it's a really interesting space where Arc'teryx can be a little bit more experimental and depart from that very, very cohesive design language from their other products without diluting the brand and all of those really good performance things that the brand stands for. Definitely keen to hear what you guys think, not just of the Dume jacket there, which I'm certainly a fan of for day-to-day wear, but the System A collection in general. Do you think this is kind of a cool and interesting move for Arc'teryx, or are you more of the opinion that, you know, it is diluting or it is taking away from some of those brands' core values, which were originally all about on-mountain use? Let me know what you think, and if you enjoy this video, please do give it a like. It is super appreciated. I always love doing a jacket review, so really hope you guys enjoy watching them as well. And that is everything from me, so thank you so much for watching as always, and we will be back next week with another video. Thanks so much for all your support on the Warcore video. I really wanted to put some time into that to make sure that I did it justice, so really glad that it seems like that came across. A shout out to Joe, still waiting on my mobile game sponsorship, but when Warcore becomes a game, I'll definitely be the first in there. Shout out to Milk Puke, definitely agree with that concept of conscious consumption and just thinking a little bit more about the things that you're buying, or even just buying a bit less. Even stuff like that really helps out from an ecological perspective. Thanks for making it all the way to the end of the video. If you want to catch some more, there's going to be links going up at the top, and please do subscribe if you haven't done so already. There's going to be loads more cool videos coming out soon. We've got some real bangers in the pipeline, real packed schedule. It's going to be great, so keep an eye out.